Alright, so today's job is going to be to get the kind of the ridge of the whole loft finished. And we're going to do that with this tongue and groove cladding. It's probably the most suitable thing for the job. It's easier to install than putting up one solid sheet, and also it just allows me to kind of map out, but I can put the centerboard up and map out exactly where the lights are going to be, and then we can add the additional strips after that. So first job is to measure out, just make sure my lights are at the right points, and then I can drill this centerboard and bring the lights through. We'll fix that board up and then the rest can slot in. Where these counterbattens are, I've made sure that they are adjacent to where the cables are, so we can, if we ever have to hang a heavier light fixing, we've got something there. Whereas, I mean, these are light enough that they'd probably be okay in just this timber. Right, so that was a little bit fiddly, but I've managed to take those pendants off and pop the wiring through. Now I'm going to centre this one nicely on the ridge, attach that one, and then I can reattach our light fixings and bundle the cables right into the middle, and that way I know they're safe from fixing the other ones. I'm using little short brads anyway, so they won't go any further than the counterbattens, so it's not really any risk there, but I'd rather keep them where I know they are all together. Okay, let's just find our centre. It's much easier with a steel rule than trying to do it with a tape measure. You know, you can follow the board all the way across. We can work out exactly where we are. So in the other room it was 18 either side. So just check it's the same over here. Well, it was going smoothly until I realised that it dips. This end of the ridge dipping slightly. Stick a bit of 12mm there, which will bring it down. Put a straight edge on there. I think that's as good as a wonky house is going to get anyway. Obviously the middle three boards are okay. The outer ones need to be cut round the rafters. They also need the tongues or the grooves cut off them, and then they need to be reduced in width by about 5mm. So not straightforward. And I'm also just fixing the edge nearest the centre so we can pull it down a little bit to slot the next one in. I quite often get asked about this nail gun or brad gun. And my thoughts on it. I mean, it's alright, I've had it for years, but the nose itself marks quite, well, it dents the wood. And there's a fine line between pushing it in far enough so that the action, the kind of a metal part of the nose doesn't mark it, and then if you push it in too much, it does. But obviously if you hold off too much, the nail isn't sent home and there's no adjustment on it. But I mean, it's very inexpensive, and when you need something like this where you don't really want to be hammering around and screws will be too much to fill, it's pretty handy to have. But since I bought this, the technology's changed, and for instance the Ryobi cordless one looks the bee's knees for this sort of thing, so let's keep saving up. Splinter. Okay, that end board's on now, on one of the sides, cut round the rafter. But as you can see in here, you can still make out the groove, and also because of the slope of the ceiling, this board isn't being pushed up flat level with the others. So what I need to do now is cut the edge of this board on a 40° or 45° angle, and that will both get rid of the groove but also give us an extra bit of clearance to push it up higher. Right, so what I've rigged up is the bandsaw. This little bandsaw is easy enough to bring up here. I tried going down and doing it on the table saw, but the first cut I made for the other room I did on the reverse side, so I thought rather to reduce the risk of mistake I'd bring it up, bring the bandsaw up and do it on there, and it's actually worked. Well, it's just as easy as the table saw, and we just need to adjust it slightly because we only really want to take off just the groove, the depth of the groove. So I did the other room with a jigsaw, which worked okay, but I was getting a bit of tear out with the jigsaw blade I had. So I'm going to use the multi-tool. It's a bit slower, but it gives a nice sharp cut to that. That blade is not like cutting with the grain. You see I've cut back on the angle with the multi-tool, and that's just so it'll follow that rafter up. Okay, so the tongue needs to come off this one on the bandsaw, and then this one's ready to fit. Going to be sanded and painted white today, so it'll be all very neutral, very white, bright, with the kind of the beams exposed there. So this is what the ridge looks like now. I've gone over with like an undercoat primer, and then just used the same matte ceiling paint across those 2 coats of that. So we've got a nice flat matte finish on it. I will probably end up putting a small trim along the edge here rather than have that shadow line. But for now I'm not too fussed, it's pretty tidy. So all we've got to do now is cut those reclaimed sort of timber beams, which we're going to fix to the back of these like the other room, and then we're pretty much there. These are a temporary option, just having these pendants. I quite like the idea of having the exposed bulbs rather than big lamp or anything, but I want to replace these flexes or these fittings with, you can kind of get the rustic vintage metal ones with the braided flex, but again they're a little bit more pricey, so we can just swap those out as and when we want to. I have managed to find these LED bulbs which have exposed filaments in them, and they're dimmable, so that they're a little bit more like the tungsten, sort of the arty ones with the exposed filament. So I have put them onto a dimmer because they are rated as dimmable. They're the Philips ones. And they're not too bad. You can pretty much dim them to whatever level and still kind of have that exposed sort of filament, but they do flicker a little bit. There's no kind of, I can't quite work out why and when they flicker. They're pretty much fine now, but then last night I was working up here and I could just see that they were slowly flickering. So it might be something to do with the switch. But apart from that, they're really good, and I think we've got a good amount of light up here now. So that is it. The ridge is up, the lighting's up, albeit only in these areas. That big room hasn't been done yet. That's going to be put on hold, I think. I can see us wanting to do some garden projects. But anyway, so that ridge is up. It's nice to have all the lighting sorted, and I think there'll be a couple more videos left in this We've got one more section of panelling to do, slightly different style. We've obviously got the floor to paint, finish that video, and just a general decorating video, I think, and just show you some of the ideas we've come across from other people's projects and what sort of style we're going for. One thing I haven't mentioned is that cable at the end there, which is just terminated into a block. That's going to be for an LED strip, and that will be quite subtly put on the back of this rafter all the way up and down the other side, which will act as like a backlight. It will light all the stonework here, and I think that's just a nice way. When we don't want the main lights on, we can just have that really subtle. That might be dimmable as well, or just a kind of low power LED strip, and that will just kind of give a bit of a light wash, a downlighter over all the stonework, and hopefully that will give a nice look to the room. So thanks for watching. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't done already, and make sure you stay tuned for the next videos coming up. So thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next time.